is those of you that are on the text list, you're about to get a text from me because sometimes I know every now and then we need a little wake up call. And so I'm actually going to text everybody who's in the class to let them know that class is now starting because I want them to be here and I want you to be here because I need you to reach your potential. I need you to be the best you can be. I need you to dig deep and figure out who the hell you're supposed to be financially and otherwise and start becoming that person. You know, time is ticking. The clock is going to run out at some point, and I don't want you to sit on your deathbed when you're 85 years old and feel sad that you wasted your life or that you didn't go for the things that you wanted, right? So let me know if you get what I'm saying. I really just I think about this every single day, you know, and I'm very passionate about it. I'm a big believer in just doing your best, you know, like I kind of think that I wonder in life how often we're encouraged to really do our best, to really even understand what Black excellence looks like, right? What does excellence, period, look like? Black excellence, any kind of excellence. I don't really know if I always see us pursuing excellence. I think that when you're in a survival mindset, when your goal is to just, you know, get accepted, like to integrate and, you know, and get white people to not to start to like you, you're not really pursuing your excellence. Because I think that your trajectory of excellence is something that is going to take you out of your comfort zone. It's going to push you to the limit. It's going to offend a lot of people. Unfortunately, excellence will cause you to lose friends, a lot of friends, and it kind of sucks. It's you know it's kind of the pathway though, because if you are a rocket and you are on your way to the moon, well, you can't be hanging out in south side of Chicago. Right? That rocket can't, you know, it can't hang out in the stratosphere. It's every stage is going to be at a higher level. Do you understand? And when it hits that higher stage, it's going to have to start dropping off the boosters and whatever, you know, it might have boosted it up to level 10 or you know, it's going to need to drop those boosters to go to level 15. And I really think that in general in life, I don't know how much we accept that. I don't know how much we truly process just what that journey really is supposed to look like and why it's very important for each of us to really know what our journey is supposed to be and who we're supposed to be, right? So I don't know. I think that maybe a good start to today, a good question to ask you is who the hell are you? You know, who are you supposed to be? What are you who you're supposed to be? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Is your life looking the way it's supposed to look? And have you done your best? And so that's my morning thought. That's my first thought that comes to mind. And actually, I want to dig into the economics in a minute as well. But I wanted to start there because money without mindset doesn't exist. If you don't have the right mindset, then you can never get to the money. Don't even talk about the money if you can't talk about the mind and the body and the soul and spirituality and all this other stuff. This is all connected. It's all connected. It's all very metaphysical, you know, just what you believe about yourself, what you say to yourself, what you messages you feed to yourself, the people that you hang around. All that is going to affect you in terms of what your potential is and who you actually have the capacity to be. And I just really want you to be your best, right? So anyway, first off, I did not get a chance to greet you all properly. Sometimes when I jump right into it, I don't get a chance to do that. Um, let's see. I see Alika Murphy and Alfonso and Antoinette Buford. I see you, Sharon Mack, Brenda James, C. Logan, Shaniqua, Ayana Hamilton, Crystal, Cornelius. Let's see here. D. Hines, Curly, Andre. Good morning to you. Good morning, Nicole Jefferson. Good morning, Edwina. And all right, and everybody else that's in here. If I did not get to say your name, then I apologize. I just want to make sure we get to our conversation. And also, in case you're new, welcome. This is Money in the Morning. This is our financial consciousness training, and our goal is really to reach our potential by understanding what a financial psychology minds, what a financially psychological mindset looks like. You know, what it looks like to really understand how money works, where the money lives, to understand your relationship with money, your approach, all these things. That's what we sort of explore every single morning. And if you're not on the text list and you want to get an invitation to join us or reminders, just text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. And in fact, later on today, I'm going to schedule later on this afternoon, I'll send you a list of stocks that pay dividends, right? So I'm not just going to talk to you about financial mindset. I'll actually give you some tools that can help you get there and show you some things I'm invested in. So text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948, and I will send you that list of dividend stocks this afternoon. It should arrive a little bit later. And when you get those text messages, if you're interested in being here, make sure you click on the messages periodically to take a look, because if you don't click after a while, then we'll assume that we're bothering you and it will take you off the list. So I don't want you to get taken off the list if you want to stay on the list. But if if you want to get off the list, then that's how we end up being more efficient with our list size, because it costs money for us to reach out to you. And but the class is free. All right. So here's what I want to start off with. Here's a conversation that I want to share, and I actually sometimes I give a precursor to what I'm thinking by what I even tweet about. And so today on Twitter, I put up this statement where I kind of had this image of a black family doing business, and I was thinking about some of the stuff that's been going on, right, lately in media with this hip hop beef with Drake and Kendrick Lamar. And so I contrasted that image, of the black male with this image, right? This image of a black family that is sitting there with the father. I guess he's the patriarch of the family, with his children who are learning. They're sitting in, they're in business school because they're watching daddy do business, and the daughter with her hand on his shoulder because she's proud of her father and she's learning from her father. And there's a legacy that's being left. They're in a nice, comfortable office. They're dressed very professionally, and they just have an aspirational look. They're sitting in some office on top of some big building, making big plans. And to me, this is a beautiful image, because this is really something that I think that we deserve. It's something that I think our children can be proud of. And I think it's something that really reminds me of sort of the contrast to what I saw this week, right? So what I saw this week was there was a rap beef that everybody was talking about. That was the big topic of conversation, was, this thing going back and forth between these two rappers, Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And I think just yesterday somebody got shot. Finally, somebody got shot. There was a big, it all kind of swelled over. And anybody who saw Tupac and Biggie die, kind of knew it was going in that direction. Like it could easily spin in that direction, and it could easily get worse. And I remember just thinking to myself, I said, I wonder if people really realize that how beef is really just bad for business. Right? Because if you look at that family that is sitting there looking fancy, sitting in their little corporate office making plans, what you see there is not just wealth and connection. What you also see is harmony. You see unity. You see alignment. You see a group of people that are on code. You don't see a bunch of people sitting there pulling out the worst of each other. You don't see a lot of beef. You don't see people, family members threatening to beat each other up, kill each other, cuss each other out, destroy each other's reputations. You don't have the kids on Instagram saying, "My daddy ain't nothing. Let me tell you about my daddy. He a dog. He a piece of crap." Right? You don't have that, right? The daughter is like, "No, I love my daddy. I honor my daddy. My daddy's a real man." And the daddy's showing up as a real man, right? He's not beating the kids. He's not abandoning them. He's not saying, "Oh, well, only simps take care of their children. I'm going to just, let y'all just do whatever so I can go chase liquor, weed, and women," right? And the children respect the father because the father respects himself, right? The children respect the father because the father respects himself. So it becomes like a type of reciprocity where everybody's showing up for each other in an appropriate way, and the father is taking his natural lead in the process. Now, again, I don't know why the mama's not there. I didn't draw this. This was AI. However, but what I want to kind of pick up on this, and what I like about the picture is that I'm really picking up on energy that says that the most economically prosperous environments are those that exist within a type of harmony, where everybody's mentally and physically healthy, where everybody has a good relationship with each other, where there's trust. There's trust, there's peace, right? And what you get when you look in the world of, say, hip hop, is you see the exact opposite of trust, peace, harmony, and cooperation. You see constant attacks, constant fighting, constant competition, constant trauma, constant battles, constant this, and it gets egged on, and everybody's like, go, 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 get him, get him, get him. And then when somebody comes along and says, well, this is not productive, this is not going to make us our best selves, this is going to make us hate each other, people say, oh, you're a wimp. What's wrong with you? Right. But I can tell you that people who think that way are the people that tend to have environments that become very prosperous. Actually, it's weird to bring his name up because he's controversial, but I have to bring it up in an honest way. Russell Simmons was one of the people that sort of spoke on the beef, and he said, I don't like the fact that people like to see another man bring another man down. And again, Russell's obviously controversial because the whole history and everything. I don't know anything about that, but what's interesting is that when I saw him make that statement, it made perfect sense coming from him because I did work with him in 2013. And we worked on a mass incarceration campaign, and we challenged the Obama administration to change their incarceration policies for Black men. They were very uncooperative. They didn't want to do anything. The general belief, and this is not me being political in our conversation today. This is me just telling you my experience. The general consensus, the feeling I got was they were like, "Why should we do anything for Black people? Because Black people, they're going to vote for us anyway." And I was like, but because you made this promise, you said you were going to do these things, and you can lie to everyone. You can say one thing and do another with everybody else, but with me, you can't really do that because I'm going to actually check to make sure that you do what you say you're going to do. And so, long story short, the campaign worked. I wrote a letter to the president, very very politely, no disrespect, no nothing, asking him to reconsider the policies, and they pushed back at every turn. They were very very um, uncooperative, like I said. But what Russell did was he brought in the celebrity pressure. So this letter that we wrote, or I wrote the letter. Russell was the first person to sign it, but then about 150 celebrities signed it. A lot of his rapper friends and people from Justin Bieber to Kim Kardashian, Will and Jada signed it. A lot of people signed this letter, and the Obama administration started to feel a lot of pressure. And they didn't really mess with me because they kind of knew I'm kind of a lost cause. They kind of know that you're not really going to get me to go along with whatever mainstream is. But they did put pressure on Russell because they would to kind of manage Black celebrities, they would invite them into the White House and let them kind of be part of the cool kid group. Well, Russell was kind of being pushed out of that group, and what was really impressive was that he held firm. He was very consistent, and he stood up all the way to the very end. And what actually set it off was Justin Bieber tweeted out the hashtag connected to the letter, and it became the number 3 trending hashtag in the world. And that led to Eric Holder, the attorney general at the time, changing incarceration policy for the first time in like 20 or 30 years. So we consider that to be a win. We were very happy about that. And what the reason I bring up Russell is because in light of his recent comment, is because the reason Russell and I even knew each other was because I had actually criticized him. I'd criticized him pretty bad, over his rush card. And I was really astonished and really humbled, almost embarrassed by the way this man who I'd criticized was able to forgive and forget and focus on the bigger issue. And when that happened, I said, "Wow!" I really learned something. I remember almost feeling ashamed, and kind of saying, "Gosh, this guy, he has every reason to hate me." I said stuff that was probably hurtful to him, that was really kind of harming his. I mean, they put my article in the New York Times about his rush card. So this was not tiny stuff, and but yet he was able to look past that and focus on the bigger issue of Black male incarceration, and he realized that we could be good partners on this. And I did even ask him about that, and I remember him kind of saying that peace and forgiveness are really important. Conflict resolution is really important for people to understand. And he was actually working with kids, I think in Chicago and other places, on conflict resolution. And I learned something from watching that. He's a very like Zen kind of guy. He's the only person I've ever known in the entire hip hop music industry where I've never met a single person who said anything bad about him. Like, again, maybe there's the public stuff, right? This happened in 1991 or something. I don't know anything about that, but I know when I talk to people, I talk to rappers and I say, "What do you think about Russell? What do you think about Russell?" Everybody's like, "Oh, I love Russell. He's a great guy. He's a great guy." And these are some interesting, crazy hip hop is full of crazy people, by the way, full of a lot of crazy, traumatized, angry people who hate everything and everybody. But when they get to Russell, they're like, "Oh yeah, Russell cool, man." So anyway, my point is to say that I think there's a link there in the sense that people who tend to look for peace or look for de-escalation, they tend to have more success in life than people who are always looking for a fight. If you're always looking for the beef, then you're going to get the beef, but you won't get the green. You won't get the green lettuce called money that comes with, because beef and money don't tend to go hand in hand. Here's where beef can be profitable. Is it's profitable to those who profit directly from the beef. It's profitable to those who are able to benefit from your demise, right? So if I host a fight and I say these two black men are going to kill each other in this arena in front of everybody in broad daylight, I can make $1 million from that fight, $10 million from that fight. So the person who owns the cage does very well. They make far more money than the people that are in the cage. The people that are in the cage, the two men that are fighting, are going to destroy each other, hurt each other, give each other brain damage, all that. And maybe I'll give them a cut of the money for participating in the fight. But after the fight's over, both of them will be wounded. Both of them will have harmed each other. So neither one of them are really going to be the primary beneficiaries of the beef. And hip hop is sort of the same way, right? So when I see two men destroying each other, scaring each other, traumatizing each other, threatening to sue each other, shooting at each, or somebody getting shot. I don't know who shot who, but I do know someone's gotten shot in the whole Drake Kendrick Lamar thing. Um, you have to look at this and kind of understand, like, okay, an economy has been created. Beef creates economies, just like education can create an economy, health can create an economy. You can create an economy around anything. So beef has its own economy. There are people that make money from beef, and the people that tend to make the most money from the beef are people that are these Don King like characters who say, "I'm gonna just bring these two together and let them fight it out, and then I'm gonna sell tickets to the show." Not everybody wins from the beef, right? So I don't think that the two people involved, Drake and Kendrick Lamar, are necessarily going to win from the beef. I think that they would probably win through collaboration. I don't think that the black community wins from these beefs because we don't get any financial benefit from any of this. The community could benefit if Kendrick Lamar and Drake got together and said, "Let's build a hospital," or "Let's go and let's instead of beefing with each other, why don't we beef with the racial wealth gap? Let's have a beef with the racial wealth gap where every week I'm going to put out a new song about how the racial wealth gap is unacceptable and black people need reparations. And then Drake is going to follow me with another song about it. And then I'm going to do one new one, right? Or why don't we beef with these horrible public school systems that are not educating our kids? So we're going to tag team, we're going to form a super group that's going to literally make music targeting this horrific educational system that is spitting out millions of black children that can't even read, write, or do math at grade level. Or we're going to beef with broken families. We have a community full of broken families that's destroying black wealth on every level. So we're going to beef with that, right? And so really, I think I was making jokes. I was joking with you all. If you were here the other day, I was joking. I said, I think I'm gonna be a rapper, right? And as a rapper, I'm gonna go I'm gonna start beefs, and my beef is gonna be with white supremacy. My beef is gonna be with racial wealth gap. My beef is gonna be with broken, torn up, corrupt politicians. And every day I'm gonna release a new album, and it's gonna be a banging track. Except it's not gonna be musical. It's just gonna be me talking. But at the end of the day, that's who I want to beef with, right? I don't really want to beef with other black people. I don't see where the benefit is. I don't see where the win is for me to beef with other black people. And when I realized that I'd actually kind of figured some things out, it was when people would try to beef with me and I would say, "Well, I don't want to beef with you. I'd rather just talk to you, or I'd rather learn from you, or I'd rather listen to you to find out why you're upset with me." But if it's about a beef, I don't want to do. I had a professor that wanted to be, I kid you not, he was a professor that was like, "I want to, yeah, I reached out to you so we could debate and you got scared and you backed off." And I said, "We're not rappers, we're scholars. We're supposed to think. If you want to talk, I'll listen to you. I can learn from from you, but I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to act like a 12-year-old. I'm 52 years old. I was 12. I was 12 40 years ago. You do know I was 12 years old in 1983. That was I might have fought you back then because I got in a lot of fights when I was 12. But at 52, I'd rather not fight. I'd rather actually figure out how we can collaborate and make the world a better place. So basically my point is to say that when you're talking about even your own space around you, your own little circle, don't beef with the people you love. Don't beef with people who are your natural teammates, because it only stresses you out. You're only gonna lose, especially if you're dealing with somebody who a lot of the worst beefs are the ones where somebody used to be your best buddy and they know everything you know and they know all your weaknesses and now you're fighting each other. That's the worst person to fight. But those are a lot of those are a lot of the fights that actually happen. It's somebody who used to be next to you, who loves you so much that they now hate you. There's a thin line between love and hate. Usually, if a person hates someone on a really high level, I always ask myself, where was the point where they loved each other? Because you can only hate somebody that much if you used to love them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that's kind of, or like, so if you date somebody and they're like, I can't stand my ex, I hate her, and she blah blah blah, that means that he's kind of still in love with her. He just can't accept that, right? Because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. Love and hate are kind of the same energy. It's passion just directed in different ways. It's like a gun where in one case you're using the gun to point at the enemy, in the other case you're using the gun and you're pointing it at your own face. But it's the same gun, same bullet, same energy, just pointed in a different direction. Do you understand? So really, this is what I see, and I think that sort of managing that and understanding that is a critical part of not just building and connecting, but it's a really big part of wealth. It really is. It really is. If you're able to kind of get past the emotional issues, that's when you can really get to the point where you can engage in the consistent, sturdy act of developing and building things that require cooperation among lots of people. And it's very hard to cooperate when any individual or group of individuals is constantly emotionally charged. And that's why the healing piece is so important. So heal with your family as you build with your family. And what you'll find is that your ability to do great things together, it just escalates tenfold. Right. So anyway, let me actually pull up a slide today because I actually had some slides from the book that I wanted to go through really quickly. In my book, by the way, it's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, and you can find a copy at drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. And so one of the things that I wanted to address actually is what it means to be the CEO of your last name. Like, what does that look like? What does it mean to, you think about some of these big names that we know about, like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all that. You have to remember that these were regular names at one point. Nobody cared what a Rockefeller was when John Rockefeller was young and poor and his daddy abandoned the family. They only cared about the name Rockefeller when he made people care about it, right? Even my name, Boyce Watkins, there are some spaces where my name means something. It draws some sort of reaction from people, good or bad. That just means that people, whether you like it or don't like it, I know it gets acknowledged, right? That's a type of influence, power, whatever you want to call it. And but there was a time where my name meant nothing to almost anyone except for me, and I had to believe in that name and invest in that name to make that name mean something, right? So what about your name? You are the CEO of your last name. That is your opportunity to build that legacy and to become the person that you want to be. So some things to consider when you talk about being the CEO of your last name is one, people who tend to be able to do this, they tend to value family above everything else. When the first Rothschild stepped out and became the one who sort of set it off for the Rothschild family. The thing that his greatest asset in his life was that he had 4 or 5 sons, and he told his 4 or 5 sons, I can remember if he had 4 or 5, but he told his sons, he said that the name Rothschild one day is going to mean something. He said, "You go out into the world. I need you all to go conquer things and do great things. And when we go all throughout Europe and conquer things, we're going to make sure everybody knows the name Rothschild and that they have a fear, that they have a respect for that name. They might like us, they might hate us, but either way, they're going to respect us, they're going to see us, they're going to acknowledge us. So valuing family and that relationship is above everything else. Also, relationship management skills are really important and smart family planning. Your family is a multi-million-dollar asset if you use it as such. And also relationship management with those individuals that matter in your master plan is extremely important. So things like maybe getting a family therapist or something like that, or if you have a family investment club, or if you start a business with somebody and it's going really well, I'm a big believer in having a therapist for your business. In fact, I remember hearing the rapper Juicy J talk about 3 6 Mafia back when they were making all kinds of money. And I said, what happened with 3 6 Mafia? Because they could still be touring right now. They could still be going out, selling out shows, making millions of dollars, just like New Edition, even with old ass Bobby Brown out there huffing and puffing and trying to dance and sing My Prerogative and barely getting the words out. They're making millions of dollars doing that because they were able to manage their relationship and come back together. They understood that they were better together than they are apart. So why can't 3 6 Mafia do the same thing? Well, because Juicy J said it. He said that we got into drugs, we got our egos got really big, and we started to fight each other, and people started letting each other down. So basically, when I tell you all that drugs are the worst thing to ever happen to black people, there is a real economic consequence to that. It's hard to build with a drug addict. Also, when you talk about egos and all these other things, the ego is nothing more than a reflection of an emotionally unbalanced person. It's a person that hasn't healed. It might be a person that has extreme insecurity or whatever, or they have trauma that they haven't fixed, they haven't dealt with. So ultimately, what eventually happens is that this person's ego ends up making them feel that I'm the most important part of this group, not you. I'm the reason that the people come to the show, not you. I'm the reason we're making this money, not you. And who wants to work with a bastard like that? So eventually, the collaboration falls apart because it gets replaced by ego. Hip hop is not a place where you see a lot of collaboration because hip hop celebrates overcharged egos. It celebrates narcissism. It celebrates me rapping about me. Ain't no F the big three. There's only big me. Those who know hip hop know where that verse came from. That's a Kendrick Lamar verse. I love Kendrick, but why does it got to be big me? Why can't it be big we? Where's the big we? Why is it always me? And that was I told you all extensively about the conversations with Kanye. I was like, God, Lord Jesus, I can't sit on the phone with somebody who tickles his own testicles every morning for breakfast. Like, I just don't get that. Like, why don't we talk about what we can do together instead of talking about how important I am and how important how I'm more important than everyone else? I don't care about that. Shut up. That's stupid to me. That's weird. That's ignorant. That shows me you need time with your therapist. And you cannot move to the higher order or higher levels. Pay attention now. We talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People who tend to be ego driven and sort of have this narcissism or all these weird defense mechanisms, those are just people who are not mentally healthy. Those are people who have not healed. Those are people who have not grown. That's immaturity. And one of the reasons that hip hop has not done anything good for the black community, it's done a lot for Clive Davis and stuff in the Jewish community, but it's not done a lot for black people, is because hip hop celebrates black male immaturity. A lot of your favorite rappers, and I didn't mean to sort of say anything negative about Kendrick Lamar, but none of us is perfect. You could probably say negative things about me. We're all evolving. But the thing about hip hop that drives me crazy is that we celebrate like 45-year-old teenagers. That's what we see. We just see grown people. I think I saw the rapper Jim Jones. He got in a fight in the airport, and there's a video of him like picking up some guy and throwing him down the escalator in the airport. And I was thinking, man, isn't this guy almost 60 years old or something? Like, how old is he? He's like a grandpa age. I would hate to be grandpa age trying to fight in the airport like you're 19 years old. So my point is to say, at what point do we celebrate the idea of a man becoming a man as opposed to a man trying to be Peter Pan? All right. So anyway, let me keep going here. Let me keep going. All right. And by the way, if I offended you with anything that I said, just join the club. People get offended all the time. All right. So here is the next thing about being the CEO of your last name. An endowment of assets to maintain members of the tribe. So when you are the CEO of your last name, it is important for you to be able to have enough consciousness to rise out of your body, rise out of yourself. And what I mean by that is you must understand, you put your ego to the side. It's critical that you connect to something greater than yourself. So now I am the CEO of my last name. I'm the CEO of the Watkins name. Well, that means I'm the steward of this. That means I'm the protector of this. That is, to me, that's the most ultimate. Definitely as a man, that's the greatest form of masculinity. But women can relate to that too, right? This is yours, right? So if you're not taking care of yours, ain't nobody else gonna do it. Ain't nobody else gonna do it. Nobody else is gonna do it. So taking care of yours means, for example, I told our youngest daughter, I said, you know what? I'm gonna take care of you whether I'm dead or alive. I'm gonna be right here with you whether I'm dead or I'm alive. And that means that while I'm alive, I'm going to make plans for when I'm gone. I'm going to make sure that there's a lot of money left behind, a lot of instructions left behind. There's a lot of clarity left behind so that we can keep this thing going even when I'm gone. As the patriarch, I have a responsibility to ensure that the legacy or that the structure, the infrastructure is developed well enough that there is some understanding of what to do once the so-called noble leader is no longer here, right? So that means an endowment. Most universities and institutions that survive more than one generation have an endowment. If you look at most institutions, in fact, one consciousness exercise you can do right now is go look up some institution you admire, look up some corporation. It could be Volkswagen or Adidas or Stanford University, and I want you to go back to the very beginning, the very origins of that institution, and look at the original people who started that institution, and then try to understand, number one, chances are those people are gone. So if they're gone and they're not here to give instructions or to give resources, how in the hell is that institution still here? How's it still here? If Levi Jeans, who are the founders of Levi Jeans? I don't. Colt 45, Smith and Wesson. Let's talk about just gun manufacturers. We have too many guns in the United States, but I think Colt was. I think Smith and Wesson is a family name, or Smith. There was a Smith and there was a Wesson, or something like that. There was a Daimler and there was a Benz, right? So how did these people make plans so clear enough that their companies are 10 times larger than they were when they were alive, and this is 100 years after their death? How did they do that? Well, if you don't know, maybe that's worth studying. Maybe that's worth taking the time to say, how did you do that? How do you run a business from the grave? How do you manage a family when you've been gone for 80, 90 years? How is it that the Rockefellers have all this money? Oh, I know. It's because the Rockefeller Family Trust takes out a life insurance policy on every new Rockefeller, and they can borrow against the policy their entire life. And then when they die, the trust becomes the beneficiary. So it becomes a recursive ecosystem like we talk about extensively in the book. It becomes recursive. We're going to give to you. We're going to make sure that you understand that being a Rockefeller means you get to ball out of control. You get to live a Rockefeller life and all the trimmings and the wonderful trappings that come with that. But when you die, we're going to take a piece of you and pour that right back into the trust so that the next one after you gets the benefit. Do you understand that this is how most families that are able to climb out of poverty, how they make these are the plans that they make. Families that become wealthy. This is what they do. Dr. Mary Stoddard. I've talked about Mary Stoddard. She spoke at our last All Black National Convention. She explained when she was a kid, her parents had 17 children. They were all sharecroppers, and she said all of us graduated from college. Well, how's that happen? 17 sharecropper kids all graduated from college? That's not possible. The government isn't going to pay for all that. Well, did Joe Biden do that? No. You know how they all went to college? They had a plan. And the plan was a recursive ecosystem. Recursion means I give to you, you give back to me, right? So what they said was that whichever kid that we got into school first, your job is now to reach back and pull the next one up behind you. And then your job, when you get pulled up, is to reach to grab the one behind you. So everybody was responsible for everybody else. They had a little village, they had a little economy right there in their family where everybody had a job. Everybody had a responsibility. There were no freeloaders. Everybody got a benefit, but everybody helped pay the cost. So I want you to compare this to the way a lot of other people talk about family. They'll say, well, my kids don't owe me nothing. I don't want nothing from them. I just want them to, I just feed them and just send them out and they're going to, but they do owe you something. You changed those stinky ass diapers and dealt with their crazy asses for 18 years, little annoying teenagers. You sacrificed all the fun you could have been having. You could have been out living your best life, but you were there for those little kids every single day, wiping the boogers off their nose and taking care of them when they're sick. Why shouldn't they do that for you when you get older? Why shouldn't they understand that to whom much is given, much is expected? Why should they? Why I don't get that part. I just don't. There should not be any welfare recipients in the process. The only exceptions would be if you are a child, if you are a senior citizen, or if you are disabled. Those are the only three cases in which somebody should be able to receive without being expected to give anything. But if you are an able-bodied Negro in my family, oh, we're gonna take good care of you, but oh, you're gonna have to give something back to the family because we can't do a one-way street. Dr. Claude Anderson writes about that. He writes about this as an example of how Africa lost all of its resources and how African Americans lose our resources. We create what he calls the doctrine of unequal exchange. That is where you're giving, but you're not receiving. If you are a giver in your life, if you are a giver, a lot of you are givers. A lot of you give emotionally, you give financially, you give intellectually, you give, 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 give. If you are a giver, at some point you've got to be a receiver. If you're not, then it's not going to work. The system doesn't work. If one side is taken and the other side's given, have you ever been in a relationship like that where you're constantly giving and the other person's just taking? That's terrible. That's not fair. You're abusing yourself. What made you think that that even makes any sense? So all I'm saying overall is that when you're talking about family legacies, when you're talking about being the CEO of your last name, there has to be some sort of reciprocal ecosystem where everybody understands that with this name comes great power, but with that great power comes great responsibility, right? So let's keep going here. Um, Here's another thing to consider: a code of ethics and conduct that minimizes distractions. I think that's really important. I think having a code of conduct is critical for any group to be able to collaborate and cooperate. If we're not on the same page in terms of conduct, then we can't get anything done. So that's just something else to consider. Also, the ability to delegate tasks to others and lead. Delegation is something that is an underutilized and and it's a skill that is not well understood when it comes to many of us that are seeking to become economically successful. Delegation is so important that it's literally something that if I ran a school right now, if we had the Boyce Watkins School of Economics, I would have every child take a class on delegation and leadership as a requirement. It would be an absolute requirement. And what do I mean by that? Because one of the things that you're brainwashed to do is to work yourself into an early grave. You're taught that success means that you have to absolutely work yourself as hard as you possibly can, even if it means you're going to die. A lot of people in this room right now, and I hate to say it, but a lot of us in this room right now are going to work ourselves to death and die at our desk at some job serving some company where we don't even know the founders, we don't even know who the owners are really, and they're going to replace you at that desk within a week. That's what they're going to do. They're going to replace you very quickly. When I took my job at Syracuse, the man who had my office right before me died at his desk. He literally died, or he took a nap. He laid down to take a nap because he wasn't feeling well, and he never woke up. That's how I got my job at Syracuse. And when I walked in that office, nobody, the world had moved on within about 2 weeks. All of his files were still in there. He had open emails, uncompleted emails in the computer. I was able to go through and see all this. I said, this is crazy. So this man died. Nobody even came in to get his files and clean out his computer. I had all his, it was all there. It was just me and him, me and the dead guy, because nobody's thinking about the dead. His wife was, his kids were, but the institution wasn't. They were like, well, another dead professor. We just got to keep moving. We just got to keep going. We got students coming in this fall. So that was kind of a wake up call. And what I would say to you is that hard work is important, but there's ways to work harder if you are committed to also working smarter. And one way to work smarter is through delegation. There was a billionaire who was explaining, he said, one person can never work hard enough to make $1 billion. There's no amount of work you could do that would be worth $1 billion. And maybe if you're like an actor or something and you are like Samuel L. Jackson and you're like in 10,000 movies or something. But it's very hard, if not impossible, to work hard enough to earn $1 billion. He said, being a billionaire is not about what you do. He said it's about what you get other people to do, how you incentivize them. You make deals and you delegate and you find people that are better than you at certain things So you don't have to be a master of all trades. So a lot of you, when you go start your businesses, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be the accountant, you're going to be the marketing manager, you're going to be the secretary, you're going to be the CEO, and you're going to still have your spouse and kids to deal with. And that's going to be hard for you. And that's why a lot of black businesses, I think about 98% of all black owned businesses have one employee. And that's that one person who worked themselves out of a job, which is great, good for them. So you bought your freedom, but that ability to scale and improve the lives of others through hiring and team building is somewhat limited. So I think that's a specific skill that you may want to learn, because when you learn how to delegate, what happens is that you go from, I mean, in the beginning, you're like, okay, I got to work 40 hours a week to be successful. And then that's not enough. Then you say, I got to work 50 hours a week. Then that's not enough. Then you say, I got to work 60 hours a week. Then that's not enough. Then you start saying, no, sleep is for suckers. I'm gonna work 90 hours a week. And then next thing you know, your health is deteriorating. I mean, you could do that when you're like 30 or 35, maybe. But then after a while, your health starts to deteriorate, your quality of life starts to decay, and all these other weird things start happening because you're working constantly nonstop. And then you reach, in economics, we call this the point of diminishing returns. You reach the point where, like, working those extra hours just isn't getting you where you want to get to, and you kind of get stuck, you plateau. So what I then learned when I started studying delegation was, I said, oh, wow, okay, so now that I know how to delegate, I'm no longer trying to work 80 hours a week. I'm now working 600 hours a week. You know why? Well, because there are other people that I can bring in who are better than me at certain things, and I can pay for their time, right? And that allows me to have access to all these other hours that are helping us get things done. How do you think I run the Black Business School? I can't do this by myself. I have about 18 meetings a week with different team members that help me get things done. Last night when we did our real estate thing, Shalay Camilo came in. She's a real estate expert with 20 years of experience. I can't do that by myself. So I made a deal with Shalay and said, hey, would you come in and help our students understand real estate? And she was like, great. So it was a win-win situation. Community building. The people around you can really help to propel you and to help you become successful. Now the other trade-off is that, in order for you to be able to delegate properly, that's where relationship management does come into play. I can't, I don't think Shalay would have partnered with me if I was just a complete asshole to her and disrespectful and a narcissist who said, well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins and you're not, and that makes me more important than you, and blah blah blah. That there's no space for narcissism in collaboration. Collaboration typically means that I'm going to be sensitive and empathetic. The word empathy is crazy how people think the word. I talked to a guy one time who said empathy is not a masculine trait. That's not. I said, no, I think it's actually quite masculine, actually. I like empathizing with people because then I can understand what you want so you can understand what I want. And then we can both get what we both want. How about that? How about we create win-wins? There's nothing wrong with that. What do you think that the world runs with me only thinking about myself and me dominating you and suppressing you and oppressing you into doing what I want you to do? That doesn't work. That's not sustainable. But what is sustainable is if I take care of you, you take care of me, and we're hooking each other up. And then guess what? We're all rising together. We're all succeeding. We can all be great. We can all be extraordinary. But I have to understand that economies, that's how economies work. I pour into you, you're pouring back into me, we're pouring into each other. I have proper boundaries, right? Where if I'm pouring into you and you're not pouring back, well, I'm gonna stop pouring. I'm not gonna keep pouring into you if you're not pouring back into me. But once I know that you're pouring into me, then I'm gonna pour into you, and we're basically making investments. We're building an economy because I know that success is like a boomerang. It's not a frisbee. It's a boomerang. The more energy I throw out there, the more it's gonna come back. Right? And whether you know it or not, that's the relationship I have with you. I pour into you all every single day. I'm here every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. A lot of you are here for free. And I do this because I know that at some point when I need you to have my back, a lot of you will. And I appreciate that. That's what reciprocity looks like. Right. So ultimately form those reciprocal relationships, learn how to delegate to other people, form, team building. Team building is how you become successful. And that requires specific skills that are related to what I would almost define as not being an asshole. That's literally that was this is how ridiculous I am. My brother made the horrible mistake of making me the best man at his wedding. He was the best man at mine. And I gave the speech, the best man speech. And I was just like, what would be some good advice to give, like as far as relationships? And I said, don't be an asshole. That's it. Just don't, because the world's full of assholes. The world trains you to believe that the way to be successful is to be a prick to other people. The way to succeed as a man is to be mean to women and dismissive and disrespectful. Or with women, you got to tell these men to. There's a woman that wrote a book. I kid you not. She wrote a book called Men Love Bitches. And I was like, what men are you talking about? Because I don't love bitches. I don't know. Don't be a bitch. If you're a bitch, I stay away from bitches. I avoid bitches. But maybe there are people who think that way, right? Maybe boys love bitches, but men avoid bitches. That should be MAB, right? So long story short, my point is to say that that delegation skill, which should be a formal skill that you are formally trained on. There's a great book. I had my team read this book called Traction. Traction was really good in terms of explaining how you can delegate and get accountability and form set goals with a team and all that. And I had them all read it because I said, let's learn how to delegate to each other so we can really get some things done. Okay. So anyway, enough of that. I'm gonna go ahead and finish our discussion for today because sometimes I get into it and we just talk all day and a little bit too long. And so we're gonna meet again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you're on the email list or the text list. The text number is text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. And also later on today on the text list, text morning to 87948. I'm going to send you that list of dividend stocks. I dramatically call them my dividend monsters. So if you haven't gotten that list yet, I'll text that out again later on today. So text morning to 87948. Also, a couple quick reminders. Let's see here. I know next week Dr. Christina Parks, who has a PhD in cell and molecular biology, is meeting with students. I'll send you all a link to join that if you'd like. She does our sort of health is wealth series. It's really, really good. And who else? Andre C. Hatchett, who is showing our students how to become mobile notaries and make money that way. He's meeting on Monday. We have a whole mobile notary academy. And I know Michael Edwards, who is running our Forex Academy, who's a Forex expert, former banker, Wall Street guy, very smart guy. He's going to be doing Forex next week. So if you want to get notifications of all this stuff, just make sure you're on the text list, and I'll make sure all this stuff gets sent out to you guys. So just forgive us for sending out, but you're gonna hear from us probably every single day, and if that's okay, then we'd love to share with you what we have going on in the Black Business School. So anyway, guys, now Dr. Christina Parks will be here next Thursday, I believe, and then also for those of you that are in the Prime program where we sell stock options and make money that way, we're gonna have a meeting on Thursday, and then we're gonna do another Q&A for beginners on Saturday. So if you want to take a look at that, just go to drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. I hope this was helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And